Yeah, okay, Matt. So you joined us almost a year ago now, and you, I believe, were kind of doing some marketing stuff beforehand. If you probably saw one of our ads, you came into our program, and we had some correspondence when you first joined, and I think we might have had a phone call, and then you kind of went off the grid, and I thought, Matt's gone now. I don't know what he's doing. And then about 3 weeks ago, I had a message in my Facebook inbox saying, Dan, we've just hit, I can't even remember how much it was revenue wise, but it was a lot. And I was thinking, wow, I haven't heard from Matt in so long. The reason I want to have this quick chat is just to figure out what you've been doing, what you're doing in the past, and where you see yourself going in the future, and what the potential is for the pay per lead model in the industry that you're going after. What are the positives and negatives from this way to doing it versus the old way, and whether it's a clear-cut no-brainer or whether you're still doing other stuff on the side on a retainer basis. Yeah, just a bit of an update really to where you're at.
Great, sounds good. Where would you like to start?
What are you doing before? So
before I watched your the value video, I guess we would call it, just kind of explaining what the Flexxable course is about.
Yep.
I had actually spent the bulk of the previous 6 years or so as a professional speaker. So I've gone around and averaged probably 30 to 40 speaking engagements a year at the peak, maybe doing 50 or so, talking about leadership and specifically trying to inspire leaders to see that if they make taking care of their employees a higher priority than money, they'll actually do much better over the long term. And got kind of lucky and ran into a well-known author and ended up writing a book on that subject, and then got published a second time by Wiley on writing a book on mindful leadership.
I remember this.
So so I was loving that career and still do. I still do it a little bit. We travel about once or twice a month now. But my wife and I found out we were pregnant, a little over 4 years ago. And I just realized, man, I don't want to be missing my son growing up. I don't want to be on the road 50 times a year, which was about what I was doing when my wife found out she was pregnant. So, I've been going around talking about building these amazing workplace cultures, and I've worked with a lot of great cultures and used those as case studies. But I thought, I might be able to free two birds with one key here. And what if I build my own company from the ground up and take this to the extreme, build a culture where loving employees is by far the clearest top priority. And at the same time, I could do something that doesn't require me to travel to earn a living for my family. And I had done a little bit of marketing for my speaking work. I knew a little bit about SEO. And so I invested in a few courses. I think I spent 15 grand or so on a few courses on SEO. And then later realized, the SEO sale that's just not what I want to do. It's just so tough to sell that. And the paid lead generation is way better, because you could still do SEO down the line if you want to, but you can immediately generate results for a client. So it was actually local lead gen, and the guys who ran the course were pretty similar to you in that they encouraged to figure out your numbers and do a pay per lead model, which really made sense.
Okay. Yep.
The problem was the real pain point was it was all local stuff, and we were working our tails off for local businesses who were not very good at following up with leads. They didn't offer that much net profit potential to us, or gross profit potential to us, even if they did follow up with the leads. But the churn rate was high because they didn't have good systems for following up with the leads, and they're saying the leads are bad. And so when I saw your video, which I'm sure you're well aware, you've been through that pain. It was just like you were talking to me, and I was just like, dude, just take my money. I think I bought it instantly. And I don't think I even contacted you until you saw that I was a student, and you reached out and said, hey, I offer at the time you were offering to meet students, for 15 minutes or so when they first signed up.
I remember that. Yeah, that was early days. I wanted to do a lot of market research and see where everyone was at. And I think I spoke to about 100 students, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
remember
And that
that
was
call.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah. So we did that. And then as you mentioned, I was kind of on this path of, trying to decide which way to go with our marketing, because realizing that pain of working with local clients, I realized, well, that's just not going to scale. You know, really, the main reason I created the company was not to enrich myself. I mean, I'm doing just fine in terms of earning a living. It was because I wanted to build something that I could scale so that I could hire people and give people an awesome place to come to work. What I'm hoping to do is create the best workplace culture in the world. And I realized that, you know, with working with local clients, it's just, even if you did scale, your net profit at the end of the day is just going to be so low, because the overhead, you know, to run a campaign for a local client takes about the same amount of work as it does, or sometimes more, than for a national client. And so you need more employees, but there's just not enough revenue to support them. So there's just not a whole lot of chance for growth.
Yep.
So you were definitely, you hit the pain point right on the head. You poured some salt on the wound, and I was right at the point. I had also, you know, been investigating, because I'd been successful as a speaker, and in a relatively short time, I went from a nobody to, you know, people paying me $10,000 to $15,000 to show up and do an hour keynote. And I have a very good friend who's much more successful than me, who does about 7 figures a year as a speaker.
Yep.
And I had learned how to build digital products, kind of like the one that you've built, and a little bit about marketing them. And so we were actually working on building that. And then I went through your course, and I was like, oh man, I got to find a way to do both. So
too much opportunity sometimes, right?
yeah. Well, luckily, you know, we had a couple good clients, and so I was able to bring somebody on. And I think this is one of the huge advantages of having your course, is that, you know, I bring a team member on, and instead of me training them, I just say, hey, I want you to go through this course, because Dan and his team they're the masters at this stuff. And I know the basics, you know, at the strategy level, but I want you to know the strategy and the tactics.
Yep.
And so immediately plug a new employee in, utilizing this training, which is what we did. And we got lucky. And, you know, we had a client that we're working with that had a new type in the legal niche, who had a client that, or a case type that they wanted to go after that was nationwide. And this poor guy, they had dropped probably 50 grand on a mailer, trying to find leads for this type of case.
Yeah.
Not only did they not get a case, they didn't even get a single lead out of this.
One lead for 50 grand.
Yeah. So he was, when we told him, well, hey, what about if we ran this using Facebook ads, and, you know, we do it on a pay per lead model, and, you know, you're not going to pay anything unless you get at least some leads and hopefully some cases. And the initial results were fantastic. He was hoping to pay $1,000 per case. I think we got him cases that it was under 800.
Wow.
With the price that we were charging for the leads.
Yep.
And we had a fair amount of margin built in, and we did one state to test. And then he said, all right, let's just go state to state to state. They have a pretty solid, he actually hired 3 new people to handle all the leads that we were sending. So they have 3 full-time people on their intake team handling this new case type.
Wow.
And
wow, that's crazy. So how did you get the client to start off with? Was it a friend, or was it a foot in the door from another relationship, or was it via the collateral we have in the course, which is the direct mail and the LinkedIn outreach?
Well, it was a little bit about applying some of the ideas in the course, but it was, I had leveraged the fact that I've been invited to speak for some pretty well-known organizations, and one of them reached out to me, a state chapter of the Society of Association Executives. So these are all people who run associations, and she wanted me to come speak. And I said, well, you know, the fee's a little higher right now. But I think I can still help you, because she didn't have anywhere near my fee in her budget. And I said, if you could just introduce me to the person who runs the association for the Kentucky Justice Association, then I'd be happy to do it, because those are the types of clients we're looking for.
Okay, yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, so well, it gets a little better than that in terms, and this is something I think students in the course could replicate pretty easily, not without having necessarily my background. There's ways that you can replicate this. But what we did was the woman said, "Well, we don't have your fee or anything close to it, and also I don't think our associates is pretty small. I don't know if it would be best for you to do that. But what would be good is we partner with this organization called Seminar Web, and we actually earn revenue. If they put on a course nationwide for the American Justice Association, we earn revenue for that. So it'd be a win for us. You'd be making us money, and you could help attorneys. So we put on a course, which is actually on where we first got our start. We're pretty good at running Google ads, and we use some techniques that get us amazing cost per click and click-through rate, and then which reduces the cost per click. So we just put on a course, a 1-hour webinar, and we didn't want local clients anymore. So we just literally gave it away. Just like, hey, here's our secret sauce for running Google ads effectively. Here's how you can do it by yourself in your own firm. And what happened, and we made it very clear, like, we're not doing this to gain new clients, but we'll be happy to answer your questions. If you want to reach out to us, we'll help you. We'll give you 30 minutes of our time to help you. We ended up signing, against our wishes, 8 new clients out of that. And
Wow.
we ended up letting 4 of them go and referred them to other people because they were too small.
Yep.
But one of them was this current client. And he initially reached out to us wanting us to improve his Google ads. And then he told me what he was looking for. And I said, I think I'm familiar with what you're looking for, and I don't think Google's the best tool for this. I think Facebook is the best tool. Here's why I think that. Would you like to explore this? And he got really excited because that's when he was telling me about, this. He had just spent all this money on nothing, and he saw the volume potential, and so that's how that came about.
Crazy. So, how did you agree a cost per lead with him? With this new case type, we actually started off, now that I think about it, we had earned his trust because we had done a different case type and actually failed with it first. But we did that straight up, cost per lead. I said, I always start backwards from what the client's target CPA is, right? So if the client says, I want cases for $1,000, I say, all right, well, what does that mean to us? If they have good follow-up, I would presume that they're going to assign a case out of 1 out of every 10 to 15 leads. So that means, we should be charging 80 to $100 a lead, something like that. Is that possible for us to do based on what I know? And I thought that it was. So we actually ran this campaign. We lost 2,500 bucks, $3,000, something like that. But we learned a lot, and we built a lot of trust with this guy. And so, and his firm, he's a lawyer, but he doesn't do law anymore. He's just the CEO, and he's an entrepreneur. He hires people who are better lawyers than him to litigate stuff. So he just thinks about strategy and marketing and culture all the time. And we earned his trust, and he said, well, it might be a little long to explain why the first trial didn't work out. But it didn't. You earned his trust.
Yeah, it wasn't so much like that it would never work. It was just, it's a pretty tricky lead type where the summary is there are 2 leads, 2 type of people that look almost identical. One of them is absolutely worthless to them. The other one's really valuable. And the one that's absolutely worthless, there's like 10 times the number of them. So to weed them out is really hard. But so we earned his trust. And then with this new case type, we said, well, let's start off. We'll do it where we won't charge you anything. We'll use our creative time and our efforts, and we'll just charge you the ad spend. And we did that for the first test. And then by the time we went into a second state, I had a really good idea of what our cost per lead would be. And he said, yeah, I'm totally happy paying that, because that would, again, his target CPA was $1,000. We're getting them cases for about 800 at the lead price that we were charging. So he was really happy with that, and we're happy because we have a fair amount of margin built in.
So you're kind of like, if I'm looking at the numbers, the way I would have worked it out, if it's $1,000 a case, he's going to convert 1 in 10. roughly, and that's what he needs, $1,000 is the price he needs a converted client to be, then you can charge $100 a lead basically. But you must have gone in at about $80 a lead because
exactly. That's exactly what we did.
Roughly 1 in 10 convert.
Yeah, and we wanted to make sure that we hit the target CPA, and we knew that we had some wiggle room with the margin. So we said, well, let's do 80.
Yeah.
Because during the test, he was actually paying more. He was actually paying just ad spend alone with no fee built in. He was paying around 115 in the first test. But what happened is the pixel got smarter.
Yes.
Yeah, so the pixel got a little smarter, and we went into a state that had more of this case type and more people, and so our costs went down significantly. And so we told them, hey, let's instead of charging you 100, I think we can do 80 and be just fine. So we earned his trust even more. And so now, there's some states. There was one state we did where I think our average cost for the whole state was like $23, a lead. And he's very happy paying 80 because he was happy paying 100. And so 80 is a discount for him, and his target CPA is still fine. And the good news is too, we like working with this client so much that if his CPA gets too high, we still have some room to say, like, hey, I think we could go down a little bit more here, and just to make sure you're still hitting your target CPA. And we're getting so much volume. Yeah. I mean, at the peak, we're doing over 100 leads, almost 150 leads a day. When the campaigns, we first start running these campaigns in a new state. I mean, the pixel is so smart right now. It finds people instantly, and they're just flooded. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, they're extremely busy.
And, I don't want to go into, I think the numbers are private as far as, the revenue that you guys are bringing in as an agency now, but, compared to what you thought could be done and where you're at now, what were the expectations, and, how happy are you with the position that you're in?
Well, considering that, we've hired 2 new people and now have rented, this is actually our office. We're looking away from it right now, but our office sits on the Cumberland River.
Wow.
In 15 minutes from downtown Nashville, in a secluded place.
Wow.
So we actually rented what's like a cabin in the woods, basically, so that employees can work someplace that's really relaxing, and when they go on a break, they see this behind us. And so we're able to do all that and still have a decent amount of profit left over. And that's just with one client. And we haven't been at all. One of our new team members is doing a little bit of prospecting right now, but we have not. Every time that happens, it's like this one client we have says, well, what if can we do this case type? Let's try this. And so like, why bother going out and finding new clients if you can keep adding value for the one client you have that's a dream client? Yeah. Which is what this guy is. I mean, he's just super easy to work with. He's super accessible. If we say, hey, we have a couple questions, do you have time to chat? He emails us back instantly, and usually puts other things aside to talk to us because we're generating so much value for him. And so we love working with his firm. He enjoys working with us. And I think that would be the only drawback, is I knew, what the expectation was, all right, if we were 100% focused on pay-per-lead, done-for-you marketing, I think we would be further along. We'd be a 7-figure agency right now. But because we have a small team, and we're also working on building this digital product, helping people to grow a speaking business or grow their speaking business from where it is. We're not as focused as we should be. So, but I think because we've got people who they're getting more, they're becoming more expert, in running, this type of agency model. And I think as we add maybe 1 or 2 more people, then the next person will probably be a business development person, and really start looking at, well, all right, how do we add some new clients to the mix? Because we're probably about tapped out with this client that we love. There's certain things that work really well with Facebook, certain things that maybe not so much. And I think the things that work really well with Facebook, we've probably just about tapped out those case types.
Okay.
So to add some new revenue, we will need to go outside of working with this one firm. And I think if we do that, the little bit that we've worked with either exactly what you teach in the course or some variation of it, I have absolutely, I mean, the conversation is so easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go to somebody who's been pitched retainer models, that's all that they're hearing. And you say, well, how about you only pay us when you get a qualified lead?
Yeah.
I mean, their ears just perk right up. So
yeah.
I'm not worried about adding
more clients. No. And this is what most people don't understand. Like when they have calls with my sales team or myself, they're always like, so how quickly is it going to be before I start landing clients? And you know, my answer is 95% of the people who come into our program, if they take action, they'll be landing clients within 2 weeks. And that's easy. The easy part is landing clients. It's like the alternative way of doing things. It's the harder bit is getting the campaigns working, getting the leads coming in, getting them a good cost per lead, and then worrying about the quality of the lead after that. And that's that's where the challenge is, right? I'm sure you
also,
saw
I
that
would
as
say,
well.
yeah, I would also say finding the right client, because
Yes.
you'll get so many people interested in what you're doing, and you might be so excited when you're new to just say yes to everybody.
Yes.
But you know, you got to look for red flags. Like, how well does this person communicate with you? If they're consistently neglecting you, you know, well, how do you think they communicate with their follow-up with their potential clients and with their current clients? And you know, just looking for red flags like that. But most importantly is, you know, you want to be almost, it's kind of weird, but I think you want to be pretty selective about who you're bringing on as a client, almost like you're running a nightclub, you know, and if you find out through your interview with this client that they do not have a systems in place for following up with a large volume of leads, then you might want to reconsider working with them. You know, if you're brand new and it's your first client, go ahead and learn, but be very careful about the expectations you set for them. Make sure it's really, really clear that, like, hey, you know, contact rate for Facebook leads is on the average, what, 20%, would you say, Dan, across all industries? You know,
it really depends. It really depends.
Yeah, just as an average across all industries, it's 20%, I think, might be the average. You know, if you have a good funnel in the right industry, you can get I mean, our client's getting a 60% contact rate on the leads that we send, which is significantly, I would think, above average, even for a well-run
I think so.
campaign.
Yeah. I mean, some of the industries we're in are the ones where people don't like picking up the phone too much, and they drop it down to around, you know, 40%. But usually, you know, between 40 and 60%, you know, sometimes lower, definitely, depending on your funnel. Like if you're doing lead ads, for example, then obviously people aren't going to pick up the phone. But if you're putting them through, you know, a 12-step quiz or an advertorial or, you know, whatever, obviously the quality goes up. The harder you make it for people to get through those funnels, the more likely they are to pick up the phone. Which was my next question. What do your funnels look like? Are they advertorials? Are they quizzes? How does that look?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. And I think that comes back to what we were talking about there with, you know, picking the right clients, is just making sure that you understand, like, if you send them a large volume at a low price, that the contact rate's probably not going to be very good. If you want to be really detailed, and this is probably, there's been a tremendous amount of value adds, I think, from your course, Dan, but one of them is just the introduction to Leads Hook, you know, and that the ability, you know, because we had previously been using Typeform, which is a fine quiz, right? It works from a user interface standpoint. It's really nice, really clean, but they don't have decision tree capabilities. And I actually asked them several times, like, do you have this? Would you consider doing it? And they say, oh yeah, well, we'll mention it. And I've never heard, to my knowledge, they still don't have it.
Really?
You know, Leads Hook, you create a quiz with a decision tree, and you can educate. It's basically like you're educating the pixel. You know, you're teaching this Facebook pixel like who you want, and it learns really fast. And if you can get that thing 50 leads that you want in a 7-day period, after that, you own that pixel is an unbelievably valuable asset. So we do a mix, like with the case type that we're doing all over the country. Well, I guess both of them are nationwide right now. But the one that has been really high volume, the newer case type, that is, we run an advertorial for that. And then
Okay.
the quiz is actually pretty short, but it doesn't matter because basically this company is so inept. You know, we're targeting a specific company, you know, people who are clients of a certain company, and the
Oh yeah.
law
Okay.
firm is suing that company. And you know, basically, if they're a client of this company, they probably have an issue, you know.
Really?
So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so that's really the only qualification they need is, you know,
Yeah.
are you a client of this company, and do you have reason to believe that they've made an error that's going to affect part of
Yeah. Yeah.
your
Interesting.
life? And
And they need to be explained a little bit about how they can get compensation or whatever, and that's usually done within the advertorial. If they
exactly,
read
yeah. So
through that, they're excited, and then it's a no-brainer for them. I imagine your landing page conversion rates on that quiz must be super high, I suspect.
yeah, yeah. You know, it's like you were saying. You know, you're weeding out the people who aren't going to pick up the phone.
Yeah,
So that's probably why their contact rate is over 60%.
yeah,
Uh, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
is everyone they've had to have read about 500 words before they ever see a button that says click here to see if you qualify for a free help, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And so they've read 500 words, they're educated,
yeah,
they understand that this is legit, which is
yeah,
a huge thing on Facebook. There's so much stuff going around and people are wondering if it's a scam. Do I really want to give my email? And when they see an advertorial that's educating them from a reputable law firm or a reputable company, whoever your client is, there's some trust built in there, you know, and they're much
changes
more
things.
likely to say
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm happy to give up my contact information and provide
yeah,
you with some,
yeah.
or
Amazing.
pick up the phone when you call. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, isn't it? So I'm interested on what your thoughts are about like, because, people that are doing lead gen or, they're worried about coming on in the pay per lead model. Sometimes people are concerned that the industry is not big enough and there'll be saturation. People coming to our program are working in the same industries, and um, there's just not enough people out there or clients out there in order for them to make this work. I mean, you've gone into a tiny obscure niche and you're charging $80 a lead and doing 100 leads a day in some cases. Do you think that there's a lot more opportunity in the vertical that you're in? Do you think there's other clients that are doing similar things? How big is this market for you, do you think?
Well, you know, that was actually one of my concerns. I think we even spoke about that on the first call that we had, was I was just thinking, you know, how many companies are there with pockets deep enough doing nationwide campaigns that, you know, as this course fills up, that we're not all going to be competing for the same clients. And I've realized that, you know, that is just
Yeah,
extremely unlikely. You know, just to use that niche in particular, how we've stumbled upon a lot of our best case types is just working with somebody on a smaller scale with something where we feel like we could win. We have a good sense that we could win. Build a relationship with them, and then we kind of say, well, what else are you working on?
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that same thought process can apply in just about any industry. You know, if you have a specific industry, you know, that you think might be saturated, well, look at what are related industries to it, you know. And what you'll find is that, I mean, all it takes is going into a database and searching NCI codes or whatever they're called, the business identifiers, and you know,
Yeah,
you start realizing there are it would blow your mind to think about how many businesses there are out there that need leads, you know, on either statewide, regional, or nationwide level. And for
yeah,
those of you in Europe, you know, obviously you're looking for nationwide because the populations are a little smaller, but
yeah.
U.S. people, I mean, even a statewide client can be worth easily
Massive.
$10,000 to $20,000 in gross profit every month.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then you start doing regional stuff, you know, or nationwide stuff. Yeah, I mean, I
It's
was concerned
huge.
about it, and I just feel like the sky's the limit. I mean, to give you another example, we actually went after, following your model almost identically. We did some cold outreach to start, and we went after we went after a niche in the financial services space, and we actually used kind of a variation of what you did with some email outreach. And with 12 emails, we had three phone conversations with people wanting to talk to us. And, you know, this was in a space that would probably, I would think, would be the most saturated of any.
Yeah.
And there are still companies that they're like, yeah, we've never done Facebook ads, you know, and they're just missing out on probably the largest potential volume generator that there is.
Yeah.
For
We're
leads.
at a special time in history. And the thing is that sometimes us marketers, we've been seeing Facebook ads for the last, 10 years or however long. We don't realize that these business owners are caught up in their own bubble. They're trying to run their business and find staff and worried about all this type of stuff, and then hire an agency as well to do their marketing. They don't know how or what they need. And then you approach them in a way where you just say, we can get you leads. And it's, it just amazes me how much opportunity there is out there. We're at a special time, and the sky is the limit, really, in my opinion. But of course, I'm a little biased. But that's good stuff. Okay. Is there anything else that I'd like to ask? I mean, where do you see it going? You're obviously doing well in one vertical now. What does Matt look like in a year from now? Is it going to be pushing this harder, or is it going to be continuing to doing your course and a little bit of lead gen on the side? It must be difficult for you to prioritize which way you're going to go.
No, well, yeah, it's unfortunately, we're invested enough in both where, well, I say unfortunately, just because I think there's huge power in being hyper-focused, and
yeah.
It was just, there were two amazing opportunities that I just felt like I couldn't just pick one. So, but what I'm doing is I'm hiring, instead of enriching myself, I'm, every time we scale up in terms of our monthly revenue, we just hire more people. And my thought is, it's like, I mean, even from like a financial perspective, if you're just sitting on $500,000 in cash, I mean, the US dollar could go to crap at any time, especially given our current political environment, and it's like, your $500,000 in cash could be cut in half or 2/3 potentially, at any given time. So the way I look at it, even just from a financial perspective, is I'd rather build an asset. If you have an agency or you're doing any type of marketing that's providing tremendous value in the marketplace, doesn't matter what any currency is doing, there's always going to be some medium of exchange of value. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is just saying, all right, well, we've got a little traction in both. So, we're reinvesting in hiring people, and essentially I'm going to have somebody who's going to be much smarter than me and better eventually at running the agency side. And my job will just be to empower them, give them what they need to scale that. And likewise with the course. So, we start off a little small with just a handful of done-for-you clients and one digital course, one digital product. And what I see happening is I see so much potential in the done-for-you side that, that's where we're actually more focused, I would say. The course is pretty easy. I mean, we had really good success with our test marketing run, and that's fairly easy. And that will be fairly self-sustaining, I think, once it's pretty passive. Once it's up and running, we get the right people on the team. But the done for you side, I think there's much more potential there, and it's more passive. It's like, if I get smart people, as you well know, I mean, you spend most of your days talking with people, thinking about high level things, strategy things, dealing with culture issues in your company, helping your team members out. You've got people that are, I would guess, smarter than you, doing all of the work, running the campaigns and doing business development. So it can be essentially entirely passive, and you can just do stuff that you really enjoy relatively soon. And that's what I'm aiming to do, is bring on great people, love them to the best of my ability, give them a great place to work, empower them to the greatest extent that I can. And eventually, when they're really expert at this stuff, just get out of their way, let them do their thing.
One thing that just popped into my mind then, as well as, you know, what you're doing in some of these industries or verticals that you're after. It sounds like sometimes it could be finite, right? Based on, you know, the number of people that work for that company or have been affected by this firm or whatever. Have you tried looking at different traffic sources yet, i.e. Twitter ads, the display network, Yahoo, Gemini, Taboola, places like that? Because it sounds to me like you might be, you know, maybe only capturing 25, 30% of the market when there's a whole other network of places out there to throw some ads up, especially if you know, getting paid 80, $100 a lead. There could be some margin there in other places.
Yeah, we haven't thought about that too much just yet, because we haven't even, I mean, we've only done like a third of the states so far.
Okay.
So we still have 2/3 of the United States to go through. And then the reason I kind of like the way we're doing it, instead of, for one, their intake team couldn't handle nationwide. They could, but we'd have to scale. Yeah, we'd have to scale the budgets down so much that I think it would affect performance. So, you know, this way we can run. I mean, we're spending, you know, $2,000-3,000 a day at the peak on ads, you know, and then we'll turn them off for a week, let them catch up, and then we will go to the next state. Wow. And so, you know, what'll happen is the way that we're doing it, I really like, because like I think it would work if you did it nationwide from a lead generation perspective, but I know it'll work this way, because what happens is it's going to take us about 9 months to do the whole country based on the amount of volume we're creating in each state and how much they can keep up with. Yeah. And he wanted to do it his firm wanted to do it that way because no one else is going after this case type, and he wanted to get all the cases signed before any other law firm says like, oh, this is a good idea. We should start going after this. Yeah. So we're going state by state, the biggest states first, and then we'll do the smaller ones later. And then what'll happen is it takes about 9 months to do the whole country. We can start over then with the first state again, and there always are going to be new people, you know, that are clients of this company. Yeah. On top of that, there are 3 or 4 other companies that are the same size or bigger who are just as inept. And if it works out as well as they're hoping it will with this particular company, they're prepared to go after the other 3 or 4. And wow. So we're set, as long as Facebook doesn't die, you know, like, and as long as, now there is one caveat that they haven't litigated a whole lot of these cases yet, so they might run into some issues that they hadn't thought about. Yeah. And if that were to happen, then, I mean, we're not going to be doing any lead generation in this niche, which is certainly possible, but it's fine because we've got 2 other case types we're going after for them. Yeah. But, you know, assuming that doesn't happen, which I don't think is going to happen, doesn't seem that way, then, I mean, just with Facebook ads alone with one niche type, we're set for like potentially forever with this.
It's crazy, isn't it? And that's just one company.
Yeah. But I think that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, Dan, is to think about adding other lead sources, just also for safety, you know?
Yeah. Don't put all your eggs in one basket is what I would say at this point in time, because it's so lucrative for you.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do, and you should talk to Nick over at Leads Hook, is that, let's say, for example, I suspect delivering leads to these lawyers, they have to get a signature and they have to find the details of the person or whatever, and then they have to send that paperwork out to the client for them to sign. What you can actually do through the funnel in Leads Hook is create almost like an application document with an eco-sign funnel at the back of it, off the back of that funnel, and it can be sent straight out to the client. No, it's like it doesn't even have to be sent to the client because it's already been signed. So it just takes away that extra step in the process, if you know what I mean. So there could be a way, you know, of course, I don't know the intricacies of the client and, you know, what they actually need from the prospect, but there could be a way that you can ask all of the questions that you need within the quiz funnel, have a PDF produced off the back of that, an eco sign thing at the bottom, and then you've already got it signed. The case is done, and they don't have to go through that mail process and all that. You know, just an idea, but it could be something to think about that your client might be interested in, especially if they have a smaller sales team and they're not really, you know, that interested in working large volumes. So it could be something to think about.
Yeah, I will definitely look into that. Thank you.
Matt, listen, I've got to go. It's 6 p.m. on a Friday.
All right.
I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat. Just listening to what you've been up to and the fact that I haven't heard from you guys in about 6 months, and all of a sudden you pop up in my messenger inbox saying you're having great success. It really warms my heart to hear that type of stuff. And I wish you continued success. Please be active in the group, and thank you for your time. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thanks for putting together a great course. I think it's adding a lot of value. I know it's adding value for me, and I'm sure it is for many others.
Great. Thanks. All right, mate. I'll catch you later. Stay in touch.
All right.
Cheers,
Bye
mate.
for now.
Bye-bye.